Good morning, Americans. This is your favorite alien here on the morning of Wednesday, February 23rd, 2022. Stand by for commentary. Well, today's commentary is continuing the in Ukraine disaster, and today it's labeled Vladimir Putin and Why World War III. You must understand Vladimir Putin, and you must understand the situation and why he's doing what he's doing. Okay? And therefore, the American response doesn't understand anything of what's going on here. And I'll give you a parallel of why Putin is acting the way he is and why the United States is acting the way it is, okay? In 1848, two Germans put out what they called a manifesto, and it was called the Communist Manifesto. Yes, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Of what they called the common man, the proletariat, and the big boys, as in America at the time, the bourgeoisie. Yes. Okay. Well, this book was picked up by a certain guy a couple decades later. Really didn't have much going for himself. And his name was V.I. Lenin. Just a crazy Russian. And in 1888, you had a new sheriff in town in Russia, Nicholas II. Oh boy, Nicholas II. Yeah. The Romanov, yeah, right. Remember, it was 2 decades before you had Alexander, which was a, good guy, except that he did what Lincoln did in about the same time. He got rid of the serfs. And Lincoln got rid of the slaves. But here's what you don't understand. In both countries, Russia and the United States, Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment here in the U.S. to abolish slavery, right? And the decree from Tsar Alexander to free the serfs. Oh, yeah. But, the underlying cause of both items, what was it? Serfdom. And what caused slavery? And you never got rid of it. Neither country has ever got rid of it. You still have it today in both countries. Racism. The belief that you look different, your color is different, or you act different, therefore you're a savage and I'm better than you. Racism caused both of those. Abraham Lincoln didn't want to touch that one with a 10-foot pole. Neither did any of his successors. Joe Biden won't get to that. And he was a segregationist, yoo-hoo, according to his vice president. Yee. Okay. Yeah. And there was a lot of guys that didn't like the fact that Mr. Alexander over there, Tsar, got rid of the serfs. Oh boy, just like the South. What are we going to do now? We got to get these guys back in control here. Yeah. And one of those guys was a certain young guy named V.I. Lenin, who organized his version of the KKK. Oh, yeah. V.I. Lenin was a very... Ooh, you think Stalin was bad? You should have seen V.I. Lenin in his youth. Whoopee! Was he not the good guy? Yeah. And Tsar Nicholas II wanted to get him. Okay. Same with the United States. The Southerners, after a crushing defeat and the so-called liberation of the slaves with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, and they forgot the cause of the slavery. Abolishing slavery didn't do anything for the United States because the cause was racism. Same with Russia. The czars of Russia didn't understand that. You just can't put a thing to a pin on both countries, and that's what you did. Abraham Lincoln forgot about that. Why do we have slavery? Well, you can't abolish something that you caused with something that you didn't abolish or changed at all. So racism. That's what Tsar Alexander didn't understand in Russia. Sure, you can free the serfs. You can abolish slavery in the United States, and you still got the same stupid problem. Because you don't have the big item out of the way. Thus, V.I. Lenin in Russia and the KKK in the USA. Now, one guy tried to do something, and Nicholas II tried to do something too. But Nicholas II was an interesting guy. I mean, he relied on an interesting guy later in his career, which cost him big time. Rasputin, yoo-hoo! Yeah, okay. And the United States had one good president at this time, Ulysses S. Grant, who has been defamated and degraded by the South because they had to change their history. Yoo-hoo! We succeeded from the Union because of states' rights. That's not when you succeeded from the Union. You succeeded in the Union because you wanted slavery. And all other states, not just your 11. And how about the states that stayed in the Union? Kentucky, Maryland. Yeah, 2 of those states that stayed in the Union. And they had slave states. So, yo-ho, what was the Union fighting for in the beginning of the war when you had slave states? And you also had a slave market in Washington, D.C. Yoo-hoo! Yeah. And don't forget about the disaster of New Orleans in 1869. Well, that happened to Russia, too. Between 1861 and 1918, the serfs, oh boy, did they suffer big time. Because the Russians wanted to get even with them. And Russia was Russia, okay? The Cossacks were Russia's KKK. You wanted anything done by the czars of Russia? Let's go get the Cossacks and go get them. Yo! It's the same as the South. Oh, well, we'll let the KKK take care of it. Yeah, even in 1915 when they reformed the KKK and went about to redo their history, same as the black people are trying to do in America today. Change history. You can't do that. It doesn't work. So quit taking those monuments to the Confederacy out and leave them where they are and explain to your descendants and the whites and the Asian descendants why they were put up there in the early 20th century. Racism, and they wanted to change the history so they looked better. That's why they did that. They still venerated the South and the Confederacy. But it was not slavery. Slavery had nothing to do with this. It was the upgrade of slavery. It was the racism aspect of this and the fact that they were superior. Okay? You African Americans, you got so messed up in slavery, you don't even understand why you are where you are today. And that's what happened to the Russians. And this is why Vladimir Putin is the way he is. Because when V.I. Lenin finally decided to get the Romanovs out of there, whoopee, he was a Russian, yeah. But look who he associated with. He didn't like Trotsky, and his successor never did like Trotsky, and that was a Russian. And the successors, after V.I. Lenin kicked the bucket in 1924, who do you got? Joseph Stalin. Yeah, where was he from? Georgia. That's not Russia, that's Georgia. Yeah. And he left. And who do we got next? After he kicked the bucket in 1953. How about Nikita Khrushchev? You? Yeah. And where was he from? Well, the problem that we got today, Ukraine, and he's caused the problems we got today besides Mr. Stalin over there. And his successor, when he got kicked out in 1964 because of the embarrassment he did to the Soviet Union. Not Russia, the Soviet Union, okay? Who was the successor? Leonid Brezhnev. Yeah. Do you know where he was from? Ukraine. Yoo-hoo. Yeah. Not Russian people. Yoo-hoo. Do you get me here? Yoo-hoo. Yeah, okay. And then you had two guys that didn't last long. Konstantin Chernenko and Yuri Andropov, which weren't from Russia proper either. Mikhail Gorbachev. Mikhail Gorbachev. Now here's a guy who's not from Russia proper, but from Russia in the Cossack territories of the Ural Mountains. He's from let me see if I pronounce this right, Stavropol-Kady, which is a southern semi-autonomous region in the southern Russian Federation over there by the Caucasus Mountain and the Caspian Sea area. Yoo-hoo! But that doesn't put him as a Moscowite. And one thing that Mr. Putin considers himself is Russian. But what is Russia? Russia is 6,600,000 square miles of disaster. Yeah. Okay. So you can imagine that from 1917 to, as he would put it, 1997, Russia was run by inepts and outsiders. And he hates the Ukraine because from 1958 to 1982, or 1953 to 82, it was run by Ukrainians. Oh boy. Do you understand me, Americans? He considers himself the first Russian since Nicholas II to hold office in Russia. And the territory he wants back. The Crimea was always Russian. It was taken by a certain Nikita Khrushchev when he was party boss in the Ukraine, and he went to the Supreme Soviet in 1954 after Joseph Stalin kicked the bucket. He wasn't exactly up there in the Soviet Union hierarchy yet, but he had enough influence that he got the Crimea assigned to Ukraine SSR from the Russian Federation SSR. He stole it, people. Yoo-hoo! He stole it. And that probably irked a certain Vladimir Putin to this day, okay? That's why in 2014 he took it back. And the Ukraine itself was the Ukraine SSR, but originally was part of the Russian Empire under the Tsars, yoo-hoo, because, like I told you in my other videos, the eastern part of Russia that has a lot of Russians in it, and the Russians have annexed, so they said, 8 years ago, and now declared independent republics yesterday or the day before. Well, they were called the Eastern Bank of the Ukraine, and Russia controlled that. The Western Bank of the Ukraine was controlled first under the Kingdom of Poland and then under the Commonwealth of Lithuania slash Polish. Ooh, Lithuanian and Polish. Can you imagine Lithuanians and Polish? Oh boy. Well, it was controlled there until the Prussians and the Russians decided to kick these guys out of here, take out Poland, and partitioned it. Just like they did in 1939, they partitioned it in 1795 between the Prussians and the Russians. The Prussians later became the German Empire. But yeah, they did the partition twice on Poland. So I feel sorry for the Poles, boy. You had no Poles to tell you how to do this, did you, Polish? 1795, you ceased to exist, didn't become a country again till the dum-dums in the Western nations here decided to make a state of Poland in 1918, which irked both the Germans and the Russians again. Oh, yeah. The Russians, because you created what you call today Gdansk, Danzig. Oh, that irked the Germans, didn't it? Yeah, and the Russians to see the Polish on their border again. Yeah. Oh, did that irk the Russians? Ooh, especially some guy named V.I. Lenin and Stalin, who came from Georgia. So you see, there wasn't a Russian after V.I. Lenin kicked the bucket in 1924. From 1924 till 1997, as Mr. V.I. Vladimir Putin would say, Russia wasn't in charge of nothing. And it wasn't, really. This is what you Americans don't understand. So, and you're saying, oh yeah, Vladimir Putin is trying to reestablish the Soviet Union. No, he's not. He hates the Soviet Union because it got a lot of problems. It cost the Russian territory. He hates the Ukrainians for having not one, but two super guys, Khrushchev, Brezhnev, to a certain extent, Konstantin Chernenko, but those guys don't matter because they didn't last long. But Mikhail Gorbachev is partially Ukrainian. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? Yeah. It's like the southern states saying, we got Yankee here. You married a Yankee. Oh. Even today that's bad, isn't it, in the South here? This is a problem that both you countries have, Russia and the United States. Stupidity and dumbness. This is what the suffering from V.I. Lenin all the way to Vladimir Putin and Joseph Biden is suffering. Well, he's got dementia, but other than that, President... yeah, you see what I mean? And of course, Miss Harris doesn't help the situation with, he was a segregationist. Yeah, that doesn't help a thing. Now do you understand this favorite alien here, Americans? This is a problem that you had that's causing World War III. And the Ukraine is part of Russia, and Vladimir Putin's trying to get it. And when the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the Western nations, especially the Americans, you guys should have said, okay, we got a good shot of eliminating this, and we got the same problem that Abraham Lincoln had in 1865, but we know today, the cause was not slavery, it was racism. But how do we eliminate this problem with Russia? Because it's going to come back to bite us in the ass. And it's not taking every state that the Soviet Union left out there and make them nations and form them in NATO. Yeah, especially the three states that always been Russia's backyard, besides the Ukraine: Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Yoo-hoo! Yeah, and Lithuania has caused the Russians problems in the past. The Latvians and the Estonians don't like the Russians any better. They're like the Finns. Oh, the Finns hate the Russians. But they got to live with them. They got to coexist with the Russians. So Finland's done a good job, but boy, the Finlands have given Russia fits. They've had numerous wars with Russia. And those Finns are tough. But they understand the Russians, something the Americans don't. And they don't tell the population here what the Russians are. Really? So this is going to cost World War III. Because you guys don't understand Vladimir Putin. And he don't understand you. And poor Mr. Biden over there seems to have dementia. Because the way he's dealing with Russia. Ugh. And then he went over there, and you know he really has dementia because he said yesterday, we're going to put troops in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. Ooh. That's like admitted you want World War III right now. So this is my commentary today. Where is the watermelons from the American side going to get off your heads? And the Russians, the leaders of the military. You know you can't sustain an invasion for Ukraine. Do you really want that territory back? It's been a pain all over to you. When it was the Soviet Union, you had leaders that controlled you. Nikita Khrushchev cost you almost World War III in 1962 with his dumb things. And what did he do? He did the same thing that the United States just did. He put offensive missiles and Russian troops in Cuba. Yeah. The U.S.'s backyard. The U.S. is flaming the same thing that the Khrushchev did in 62, Biden is doing in 22. Flaming the flames by, oh yeah, we made us, Latvia, Estonia, and Lithuania NATO countries. And we're going to put American troops there. That's the backyard of Russia. Those countries should be as neutral in the planet where neither side, neither Americans, Chinese, or Russians have any hand in it. They should be an independent, non-aligned country. They deserve their independence, yes, but they don't deserve to be aligned with the Russians or the Americans, but they should realize that they are also a buffer between Russia and the darn Western nations, and the Western nations should know that they're a buffer between them and those crazy Russians. This is your favorite alien. Do you get what I mean, Americans? Good day.